Welcome to the Life's Best Medicine podcast, where we are finding hope and healing one episode at a time. No appointment needed, no rubber gloves, and no coping. Just a healthy dose of life lessons to help equip you for this wild journey we call life. Hey everyone, this is a friendly reminder that we are here for entertainment purposes only. We may not even be that entertaining at times, but this is not medical advice. Talk to your doctor, check with your healthcare professionals before making any lifestyle changes or medicine changes. What we're talking about is our clinical experience and what we've seen. And so if you really want our advice, you can consult us. You can actually consult me as a doctor, or you can consult my guest and get all your questions answered. But we can't give free medical advice because we can't pay our bills with that, but we can help to educate you a bit and allow you to think a little bit. And always reach out to your medical professional before making any lifestyle changes. Thank you.
Discover a new path to wellness at Arizona Metabolic Health. Dr. Brian Lenzkes offers advanced medicine and personalized care, treating the root causes of your health concerns, not just the symptoms. Whether you're seeking direct primary care, effective diabetes management, or medical weight loss, with a holistic approach, our team is here to guide you every step of the way. Visit ArizonaMetabolicHealth.com today to learn more about our innovative health solutions.
Hello, everyone. Can you believe it's August? This year's flown by. I can't believe it's August. We're getting, the end of summer. Kids, sorry, you're going to have to go back to school pretty soon, but enjoy your last days of freedom while you can. And everyone, I just want to take this opportunity to let you know on September 6th, I'm going to be speaking at a free community conference in Prescott, Arizona at Yavapai College. And we're going to have some great people there, nutritionists. We're going to have people who do red light therapy and just educate us on how to keep our brain healthy as we get older. It becomes more important every year as these years fly by. So I will put a link to the flyer in the show notes, but it will be at Yavapai College from 9:30 in the morning till 1:30. And that just brings up another point that our sponsor of this podcast, Health Code, Get Health, GETHLTH.com. They're great people. They've supported me on all my medical mission trips and community events, and they're sending samples out to Prescott, Arizona. So you'll have free samples if you want to come listen to us yammer on for a little while. But thank you, Health Code, for making that possible. They have great chocolate macadamia and vanilla flavor, and we're going to blend it up right there so you can have some good stuff while you're learning and you can nourish your brain. I'm really happy to be partnering with them because the garbage they're giving our seniors right now, our parents, it's unbelievable with seed oils and processed stuff and sugar. And Health Code gives us another option. So look them up, support them, and they're doing great stuff in the community. So please continue to support them. And we thank you for your continued support. Hello, and welcome back to the Life's Best Medicine podcast. It's been such a journey in these last couple of weeks, so thanks for sticking with us. And I have a great guest today that I'm going to learn a lot because it's stuff that I can't even pronounce the stuff she does. Jill Ogle, welcome.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, so tell me your area of what you're doing. I know you've done a lot with neurolinguistics. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, neuro-linguistic programming, NLP
Yeah.
it's called, is something that I studied 10 years ago, and it's basically the language of the mind and understanding how language programs us. So I became a trainer in NLP. I don't really use NLP these days, just it's more for me, it's more what I learned with NLP is more about the questioning and how to dig deep into the subconscious mind and find the information that I'm looking for. But I have other tools now that I use which really get to the root cause. They really get to the root cause and collapse the programs that we run automatically that run our life that we're not even aware of. So depending on who you are listening to this podcast, we have a subconscious mind, and whatever's in that subconscious mind is running our lives, and we think we're in control, but we're really not, and we're quite often unaware of what's going on. So I help
Yeah,
people to
it's
bring that to the surface. Yeah.
yeah, that's so incredible. And you've and I know you've done breath work, you've done Reiki, you've done so many different modalities. So I'd love to
Mm.
hear like I'd really like to go back to the beginning. Like growing up, like how did you get into this area? How did what was your transition? What was it like that where you end up where you're at now?
Yeah, well, you won't pick it because I mean, when I was a child, like looking back now, I can see that there was threads of this all throughout my childhood. I was into magic. I was into traveling to other dimensions, which we do in meditation. I was teaching universal principles, which I still teach now. Um, However, my big awakening kind of came when my dad got sick back in 2007. He was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and someone came into the store that I was working at. I used to work for my family business. Um, and someone came in and said to me, I was telling her about it, and she said to me, "Have you seen The Secret?" And The Secret had just come out, the movie, and so I said, "No, tell me about it." She did. I went home. I got it immediately. I watched it immediately, and that kind of sent me down this path of positive thinking and really trying to work out how to save my dad. He died 9 months after his diagnosis, and what I know now is that actually none of that was for him. It was really him giving me the gift of my awakening.
Mhm.
And so I spent 15 years trying to work out this positive thinking thing, and trying to be positive all the time and working out, trying to work out why I couldn't be and what was going on for me because I must be broken. I got into Abraham Hicks. I ended up working for Joe Dispenza. And I just couldn't work out why I could not be positive all the time, why I could not be happy all the time. And so when I started working for Joe, I saw that there was actually a lot of people in his community that were the same. And um, then in end of 2019, my brother suicided, and I ended up leaving Joe's community in 2020. And when my brother suicided, I really had another level of awakening because um, what what came to me in that moment was just this sort of unconditional love that I had for him, um, but also this awareness that it's not about just being positive all the time and trying to live this one-sided life. It's about loving ourselves in the parts that we don't love, and actually that's how you transform. It's loving our darkness, um, and so that's just a brief kind of overview of kind of how I got here today. I spent 10 years in real estate, mostly commercial real estate. And so people say to me, like, how did you get from there to there? But it's life experience, right? And when you've had big traumas, little traumas, emotional stuff going on, you've been down on yourself, self-loathing, all of these things, you're trying to work out what's going on for me, why do I feel the way I do?
Yeah,
Um,
especially when you feel that way and everyone else around you see them, they're happy. You see their social media posts and all that. So many people are struggling because they say, well, my life's, I'm not on vacation every week. And they don't realize a lot of people are just posting their good stuff. They're not going to post their bad days, right?
and that's the thing, right? Like their life isn't that happy,
Mhm. Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah, and the thing that I want people to know is that there is not a single person on the planet that is happy all the time. There's not a single person on the planet that is positive all the time. And nor do you need to be to live a beautiful and fulfilling life. It's actually our attachment to these things that get us into trouble. I was talking to a lady the other day, and we were talking about sort of the Tony Robbins kind of crew and the Joe Dispenza crew, and when you're trying to be positive and upbeat and elevated all the time, what you're actually doing is eroding your emotional resilience. Because if you talk to someone who's into positive thinking, and you say something negative, they'll be like, "Oh, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it." And they can't hear it because they can't handle it. Whereas if you move through life looking for balance and understanding, sometimes we'll be positive, sometimes we'll be negative, sometimes we'll be happy, sometimes we'll be sad. You can blow with the breeze a little bit rather than, this just falling into a heap. If there's a toxic person or there's a negative person or something bad happens, because it really does. It really impacts your emotional resilience.
Yeah, that's a huge point. And I was reading a book about cancer, people who had cancer, and they were saying a lot of times people with positive outlook all the time are more likely to get cancer because they can't show that they're struggling inside. They can't share their real feelings because it's not positive.
Yeah, it's repressed and suppressed emotion.
Mhm.
And there's not a person on the planet, in my belief, there's not a person on the planet with cancer who does not have suppressed anger, repressed anger.
That was his
Um,
point too. That was the point he was making. He's an
oh
oncologist.
right.
Hmm.
Oh right. What who I'll have
Gosh,
to get,
I can't remember. I'll have to go.
yeah, yeah, after the
It
show.
might be. It might be when the body says no.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
It might be that. I'll have to. I'll get back to you on that one. I just can't. I read it recently, so I know I have the audiobook I could go
Yeah,
grab.
yeah.
But it was
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
talking about
But
the personality types of why some people get, die of cancer and some people
yeah,
overcome, cancers. And why is it? Like, what is it? Is it
yeah,
believing wholeheartedly in something? Is it coming to terms
yeah,
with your emotions? But he was saying that a lot of times it's that suppressed anger, rage, whatever it is, where people,
yeah.
where it's toxic to the physiology.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so the more that we can actually love ourselves and live a balanced mind, right? So balanced mind, balanced body, you think homeostasis, right? It just makes sense. And so the more we can actually look for balance rather than just going to be positive all the time, and I'm not saying to move through life with a negative attitude and, it's not that. Simon Sinek's branded himself the optimism guy, and I really love this because this is what I say too. It's like you have a healthy optimism for life. You know that things are going to work out. You're okay. You have goals, you have dreams. You're moving through life with purpose, and you're going to be challenged, and that's okay. you know these positive thinking people, it's become quite toxic, and instead of uh that attitude, it's like I cannot give any attention to my cancer, I cannot give any attention to this thing that's going wrong in my life. Now if you're the owner of a multi-million dollar company and something is going wrong in your company, you need to look at what's going wrong in your company. You can't just sit there and say, I'm just going to be positive,
Yeah, I
right?
only want to hear good news. I want my board of directors only to say good things, not that we're losing money, that we're doing things wrong.
So totally don't investigate it. No, just ignore the problem, right? But this is what we do in life. This is what we do in life. And um, when you get to the root cause of what's going on for you, your internal reality is always creating your external reality. And so when we get to the root cause of what's going on for you, we can actually collapse that program, rewire that program, remyelinate, and give you a different way of seeing things. Um, Anaïs Nin said that we don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. And basically that means that we're seeing the world through our own programming, our own beliefs, our own patterns, our own perceptions, our history.
And it's even
And
with people, right? Like some people, they'll say the same thing. If your friend says something, you say, "Oh, he's my friend. He's joking." Someone else says it, and you're like offended and upset. Even though they're saying the same thing, but it's just one person going to give more grace to, or you're gonna give them the benefit of the doubt more than people who irritate you.
yeah, absolutely. And everyone that irritates you is actually trying to show you a part of you that you've not yet owned, loved, and integrated. And so as you start to become aware of what's happening in your life, and you start to become aware of, the people around you and what they're trying to teach you, I say that everyone's coming to heal you and everyone's coming to be healed. Because if we instead look at people as if they're mirror reflections of us, and this will be hard for some people to hear, but really we're all reflecting each other. And so, the positives that you see in me are within you. The negatives you see in me are within you. And as you start to, fess up and own these parts, they no longer control you, and so this is the difference, positive thinking or actually getting in there and healing, positive thinking, giving no attention to that thing's not going anywhere. It's
Yeah,
not
and I
going
think coming to
anywhere.
terms with that, saying, okay, this is a terror, like, I think of it when you go hiking and you go up this steep part, you go, oh, gosh, this part's really hard, but I know it's going to flatten out pretty soon, so I could keep going. And you know what you're going to see at the end, that you're excited to see the waterfall or whatever. So it's worth the journey. But some
Yeah.
people will complain on the entire journey, right?
Yep.
Or,
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then it
Totally.
makes it that much harder because you're focusing on all the bad stuff. I mean, yeah, it's having that balance of not being the Pollyanna where say everything's great, but and I think a lot of families, I see that a lot in relationships. As a matter of fact, I just had a discussion with one of my patients today, and there's a huge elephant in the room, and they're like, "Yeah, we're not going to address that." I was like,
Yeah.
"That's if you want to get to the core problem, you got to address the elephant in the room, right? You can't just walk by it and pretend like it's not there."
Yeah, and this is how disease starts. All disease starts at a mental and emotional level, right? And so something happens, we don't process that properly because we can't. And at the time, we're in fight or flight or freeze, and so we don't process that chemical, the chemistry that's going through our body, and it gets locked in. And if you look at Candace Pert's work, she talks about the body is the subconscious mind. And so we have these blockages in our body, from past traumas, from past emotional events. And if we don't listen to the messages that we're getting through the people that are triggering us, through the situations in our life that we're not happy with, then they do get louder. Those screams get louder. They start as a knock on the door and, excuse me, like I'm over here wanting to be healed. And then it gets louder. And then next minute you've got this disease that's come out of nowhere. Oh, she was so healthy. And then all of a sudden, no, no, that's been there since you were 4 and you haven't dealt with it. And it's actually been trying to be heard and seen. And so that's the work that I do, is really helping people. And it doesn't mean you have to go in and relive, the traumas and all of these things. It's really just getting in there and collapsing it at the root and understanding that there's a different way to look at things.
Yeah, and so many things like that. The subconscious mind. I've been blown away by the power of the subconscious mind. Like I was
Mm.
interviewing a hypnotist, and as a matter of fact, I had him come talk to a group of my patients who were struggling with, food addiction or diabetes, things like that. And they're
Yeah.
struggling like with one of the ladies said, look, I have a problem. Every night I get hungry at like 8 o'clock and I want to eat everything at 8 o'clock. I could do fine all day, but at 8 o'clock I want to eat stuff while I'm watching TV. And she said, what can I do? And he said, oh, try this. He said, it's a dumb thing, but just do this tonight. He said, after you eat your dinner, as soon as you're done, you put your fork down and say, okay, I'm done eating until 10 o'clock tomorrow. That's it. And then she goes, it was the dumbest thing. She said, I don't get hungry at night anymore. Like just
Yeah.
from telling her stuff, she said, I physically say that to myself. I don't eat till tomorrow morning again. So, and then she said, I don't think about food. But when you always think, oh, in a couple hours I'll eat again, then your body just follows suit.
Yeah. 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 And this is the thing, right? And so people, I mean, that's a great example, but it doesn't usually work that easily, like,
Yeah.
and people will sit there and say affirmations and try and reprogram their subconscious. But there's an unconscious part to our mind as well, and that's where the gold is, and it's unconscious. We are not aware of it. And so when we can find the missing information that's locked away in the unconscious, it actually helps to balance out our perceptions. It changes everything. Root collapses, and we're free to move on. This is actually, if you want to think of you know Indian philosophy, this is karma. This is, in Buddhism, this is karma. This is your karmic path, the repeating patterns in life.
Well, don't you
Uh,
think some of that is because I see some people are so negative, like I'll never win, nothing's ever gonna go right for me, and then nothing goes right for them ever. And how much is it that your subconscious mind and your, I hear a lot. I have a lot of patients in their 50s or 60s, and because their dad said they were going to be a loser, like you'll never amount to anything, you're dumb. it's in their brain. Like they believe this, and it's hard to reprogram that
Well, it's actually in their body. It's not just in their brain, it's actually in their body. Um,
physiology, like the stress
well,
hormones and cortisol, all that.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
this is the subconscious mind, right? Is our body. And so uh it's not just about your conscious thinking though, right? Because like you said, something happened with his dad many years ago, right? And he's had this thing sort of locked away. So yes, he might be consciously thinking that now, but it's actually ingrained into his subconscious. So if I was to sit here and say, I'm an astronaut, I'm an astronaut, I'm an astronaut, well, that's my conscious mind speaking to my subconscious mind, which is millions of times more powerful than my conscious mind. It's not going to work, right? That's
Yeah.
not that's not going to work as an affirmation. And so it's not so much about what you're saying consciously. That's going to give you an indicator as to where you are, for sure. But we really want to get into the subconscious mind, change that programming. And how we do that is by bringing the unconscious part in. Everything has a silver lining. There is nothing in our life that is a one-sided event. But this is what happens when we experience something is our brain assigns valency and immediately labels it good or bad. But how many times in life have you had something bad happen that turned out to be the best thing, right? Right? So
Yeah.
this is the kind of work that I do is I actually help people to find that actively so that they're not waiting to find out where the silver lining is, right? We're finding it, we're finding it, we're finding it. And you're bringing your perceptions back into balance. And when you bring your perceptions into balance, you bring your body into balance.
And how do you do this clinically? Like if you had a new client, you sit and talk to them, how do you start diving into the subconscious mind and things they're holding on to?
Yeah, well, people will tell you, people will,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, people will really tell you, they'll tell you what they're proud of, easily. And every pride has a hidden shame, right? So if you're proud of something, I'm really proud of building community. I have been proud of building community. And until I owned where I was shameful for excluding people, right? The opposite, I couldn't see that part of me. And so I could not see where I was excluding people. So when I was excluded, I was triggered because that was my disowned part,
Hmm.
right? And so your pride will cover up your shames and you'll say, I'm nothing like that. I don't exclude people. No. Blame, they're excluding me. I feel hurt. I don't do that. But when you know these principles that I teach, you know that if I have a pride about something, well, then I have a hidden shame about it too. And if I'm triggered by something, then it must be there. And so we can go in and we can find where you've actually excluded people. And you start to bring that perspective up. And then you can start to find out how it's actually serving people to get excluded at times, right? And how it's actually a disadvantage at times to be so inclusive. And you start to bring your perceptions into balance. Can you see that sort of
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
softens things, right?
And you see it for what it is, and you realize, yeah, I have those same tendencies, that same weakness, that we judge. And I see that a lot. I know that's very true. Like we criticize things in other people that we see in ourselves for sure.
Or that we don't see in
Yeah.
ourselves too.
And we don't see, and that's the thing is like people,
Yeah.
I've had friends who will say something like, that's totally you. Like they don't get it,
Yes.
right? They don't see it because it's like, it's the funny thing. Like if you're at church and you're thinking, oh man, this message is for this person right here. And then they tap you and go, oh, this message is for that guy. Like everyone thinks it's for someone else and not them necessarily.
Yeah, exactly. And we've all got blind spots, right? And this is why, having a facilitator, a good facilitator can help you to find those blind spots. Otherwise we're kind of on this hamster wheel, just creating the same reality again and again and again. And we don't know like how to unpack this information and how to get to the root of it so that we can actually do something with it. Um, yeah.
Are there any personality types that would be way more difficult for you? Like if you have someone who's super arrogant or someone who is very prideful, are they harder to reach those places?
It's not necessarily whether you're arrogant or prideful or those things, but just to the degree. So, someone that's very black and white in their thinking can be harder to get them to see the opposite because they're so all or nothing. So if people are you know, prone to, oh, they always do this, oh, they never help me, oh, they always, stuff it up. They're your all or nothing type people. And you know, the quickest way to get in with them is to help them to find where the opposite is also true. And it's always there. It has to be, because there's two poles to the magnet. And so there's two sides to every situation. Um, so they are, depending on the degree of their black and white thinking, that's where it gets challenging, but it's absolutely not impossible. And yeah, I don't care about arrogance or pride or anything like that. That's totally can be handled. But it's just to the degree that they're willing to kind of play and entertain the idea. Yeah.
And are there some modalities that you use that are beneficial to get people into a state where they can tap into this more? Like, because I know you have the background in Reiki, you have background in breath work. Do you see any of those being helpful adjuncts, or was that just part of your path to get to where you are now?
It was really just part of my path. I was
Mhm.
really exploring kind of everything under the sun to find the answer, um, as to why I wasn't able to shift these things. Um, and and so the work that I do now, which is, this that I'm talking about, is going into the root cause. In fact, I actually put a post up this week saying that I'm no longer teaching breath work. And the reason I was wanting to include it into my program was to help people to regulate their nervous system. But the work I do actually collapses the program at the core so that they stop going out of regulation. So they stop going into dysregulation in the first place. So it's like there's plenty of people out there teaching you how to put a band-aid on things and how to regulate your nervous system. And that is helpful in situations for sure. I'm not
Yeah,
knocking
some
that.
people have a big breakthrough. I've heard people tell their stories where they had a huge breakthrough by breath work, by slowing down their, and I've seen it with patients, certain things we can do to slow down that sympathetic. It seems like these days so many people are in this sympathetic overdrive where they're stressed, tense, worried, they think someone's out to get them all the time, that it's like your car alarm's going off all the time.
Yeah.
And so that's such a hard thing to break.
Yeah, well, that's what I do.
Yeah.
I get to the program, I get to the root cause of that, so that they actually don't need breath work to regulate, so that they don't need, these external things to help them regulate that. They don't need to avoid, social gatherings, or can't drive on the freeway, or whatever it is,
Yeah, so many people's lives are affected by phobia, and they know, they go, this is a silly thing, but I just can't,
yeah.
I'm afraid of whatever. Certain shapes make them stressed out or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, so we get to the root cause of things rather than kind of trying to uh yeah, bring ourselves back, bring ourselves back. Yeah.
And how long does it typically take for people to have a breakthrough or to get in touch with, calming down their nervous system?
Really depends on where they're at, what they're going through, how willing they are to play. However, really, you can sort of solve most things in about 12 weeks. One or two sessions, you've definitely had a major shift. But in terms of, like, you know past family traumas, and we look at mum and dad, we look at siblings, we look at colleagues, we look at partners, children, we look at those dynamics, and sort of clear up anything that's going on, with the people closest to us first. Um, and yeah, but a couple of sessions, and you've definitely collapsed something. Yeah.
And then they just come back as needed type thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, I have clients that are with me kind of ongoing because they're wanting to just keep up leveling in life. And then I have people that come in for touch ups. I have people who, they'll do a 3-month program and they're fine with that. It just depends on, you know, everyone's different. like I'm a seeker, so I'll never stop doing this work. This is my life. It's the people around me don't understand it, but I'm on this eternal quest, so I will never stop doing this work.
Yeah, and that's
But
okay. I think there's a lot of things we do that people don't understand, but you see the benefits. You see people's lives getting changed and healed and feeling better. It's like I really don't care what people think. I care what that patient thinks or that client thinks, right?
totally. Yeah, but I mean, even doing the work on myself, I'm continually evolving as well. And so, there's people in all different degrees of life. They might come in because they're going through a divorce and that's all they wanted to fix up, and then they're on their way.
Hmm.
There could be someone who is, I worked with a guy who kept getting overlooked for promotions at work. And the moment we worked through that, he had an offer for a promotion, but it wasn't just a promotion, it was a kind of carte blanche, like you design the role. I've had all sorts of crazy things go on. Friendship breakdowns that one of the girls stopped talking to this woman for 6 months, just sort of fell off the planet, and she was really distraught about it. And fear of abandonment issues, surfacing, this kind of thing. And I think it was in like the second or third session, we got to it, collapsed the program. And in that session, after not returning calls, not returning texts, the woman that she was working on sent her a message and said, "Hey, can we catch up on the weekend? I want to fill you in." Oh,
It is wild, and you
it
don't know
gets
how
me.
much of that is, you know. I mean, is this, there's these where someone says, I know something just happened to my brother. They just know, they sense it, and they have no idea. There's no reason they should know that. Do you
We're
think
all
there's
entangled.
these connections with people that are just, when you finally come to terms like with whatever you're dealing with, that they,
Absolutely. We are all
that's
entangled.
amazing.
We're all entangled. And so quite often what will happen is the person you're triggered by, either that person will leave your life because the job is done, you've gotten the message, the job is done, or they'll contact you and they'll be like, "Hey, I was just thinking about you, da da da," and you know, um, you you have a conversation with this person, and all of a sudden, they're not reacting anymore. It just changes. It just changes, and it happens instantaneously. The moment you collapse that program, it's finished. Um, I also teach. I do one-on-one consults, but I also teach in my community. I have a paid community, and we were just working on where someone was dismissing your opinion, right? And we were triggered over people dismissing our opinion. We collapse that charge, and the opposite of that is, of course, someone welcoming your opinion. And I just had feedback on Monday night. One of the fellows was working on his brother and his dad, and he was in the car the other day, and out of the blue, his brother called him and said, uh, "Hey, I just wanted to get your opinion on this." Uh, and this is the guy that was dismissing his opinion, and he was like, "He always dismisses my opinion, da, da, da." Huge charge. And all of a sudden his brother's calling him saying, "Hey, I just want to get your opinion." And it's like magic. it's
Yeah, and
it's
I could see that in relationships where they say, well, we just lost the spark, or they're not connecting anymore, when you could get in there and find the root cause of what's going on here.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And you're not with the wrong partner. You're not with the wrong partner. They're just pissing you off to show you a part of yourself that you haven't yet owned, loved, and integrated.
And a lot of
And
that
so,
is that, like, people will say, it's funny. I kind of joke with my page and I'll say, like the New Yorker personality, if someone cuts you off, they yell and cuss and then they forgot about it. They just go on with their life like nothing happened. And other
yeah,
people don't say anything, but they're all day. Like one of my good friends, 5 o'clock at night,
yes,
he's upset. I go, what are you upset about? He goes, some guy cut me off on the way to work today. And it was like brutal. I'm like, that guy doesn't even think about you anymore. And you're like still
yeah,
upset. He goes, yeah, it was so bad. It's like, move on, man. You got great stuff to do tonight. It's the weekend. So, but
yeah.
it's amazing how we can get stuck in that mode.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Totally. And quite often, these these moments of triggers, they point back to something in our early years, and it's unresolved, and it's trying to be seen and heard. And And so when we can start to get to the root cause of things, we change how we see the world. And next minute, your friends waving people in front of them, and
Yeah.
this kind of thing, right? And so yeah, it's incredible what happens when you get to the root. And I know I keep saying root cause, but it really is when you get to the root cause and you collapse the program there, your external reality just shifts instantly. It's done.
And when that change, and you're right, it's not just I'm gonna think positive, even though I'm in a bad situation, right? It's really
No.
it changes the physiology. So many times we see people under major stress. They're gonna have stomach problems, headaches, back pain, neck pain, everything hurts. I've yet to meet a person or a patient who says, when I was stressed out every day, everything felt great. Now that I'm relaxed, I feel terrible. Right? It's that constant stress or people waiting for something bad or just having
Yeah.
that, and I don't want to say negative attitude, but just thinking everything's gonna go wrong. Like we all have times in life where it's one thing and something else, and they're like, okay, now what? What's next? There's like this is like this week's terrible. Maybe on Monday will be better or Sunday, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And you can, like when you had multiple challenges, and I think this is where, the positive thinking people get attached to that way of thinking, is because they've had such troubling lives. And I know that this is certainly the case for me. We had so much stuff going on, and trauma and dissatisfaction and depression. And so you think if you can just think positive, that life will be all sunshine and lollipops, and it just doesn't work that way. And so we get attached to being like that because the what we've experienced is
Mhm.
like hell, you know but it doesn't solve anything. It's putting a band-aid over a gaping wound, and it's just not. You got to get
Yeah,
in
and
there and
also
dig it
those
out.
past traumas, when you go through big things in life, you look at this next thing, you go, this isn't as bad as that was. That was really bad, and I made it through, so I could probably make it through this one too. May not
Yeah.
enjoy the whole journey. It's going to be kind of tough, and I might get sweaty going up the hill, but you could keep moving forward. I think that's like people like your brother, you think that they must have just totally lost hope and said, "There's no hope out. There's no way out," and then
Yeah.
you give up, and it's
Yeah.
hard. That's a hard thing because you go, "Gosh, if you just got through that period, maybe good things start
Mm.
happening."
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. And it's really when you can start to look at life's challenges um from a different perspective, you can start to see the blessings in them, then the way you see them changes. Everything changes, and you build emotional resilience because you're not looking at that thing as being like, oh my God, that was so awful. Even my brother's suicide, my dad's death, like they both gave me these beautiful gifts of wisdom and understanding.
Yeah,
And
lessons. And
yeah,
even the
how
challenging, like you said, the challenging people are there to teach you a lesson. Like you're going to learn something from this relationship, even in the most challenging relationships. You
absolutely.
learn about
And
yourself, how you're going to treat
yeah.
people and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And life isn't one-sided. So if you're feeling super, super challenged, where are you being supported? It has to be there, right? And so if you can start to take yourself out of this black and white thinking of like everything's shit, then you can start to balance your perspective, and then your
Well, and I've
reality
seen that
shifts.
too with people. Like one thing goes wrong and their whole life's terrible, right? And instead of saying, "Yeah, I had a bad day. This is a bad day, but tomorrow's gonna be better." So I get both sides of that coin.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just a trauma response, right? Because it's like you just can't cope anymore. You chuck a tantrum. It's what kids do when they're little. They're out of strategies. They chuck a tantrum. It's like, I can't cope anymore. I can't deal with this. And so that's similar to what we're doing as well, is like everything's shit. Chuck it all out the
Yeah,
window,
forget I'm not going to try anymore. It's kind of like that. They did an experiment with dogs and they would have them shock and they would jump to the other cage and then they would shock and it would jump back to the other cage. And at some point it just randomly did it and the dog would just lay down because I can't escape this anymore. And even when they stopped the shock, they opened the door, they told the dog you can leave. The dog just laid there and said I can't do anything. And the people had to take the dogs out of the cage till they realized they
Mm,
were free. And so
yeah.
I think so many people are stuck like that where they have so many experiences like this that they get overwhelmed. So who's your ideal client? Like who do you say, oh yeah, they come in the door and this is a person I could definitely help?
Um, Look, I can help anyone really. I do like people that have some sort of spiritual, metaphysical kind of background. Not necessarily religious. I'm not religious, but just sort of some understanding of like metaphysics or an openness to it, I guess, at least. Uh, because there's a lot going on beyond this world, beyond our reality, beyond our eyes that we can see. We see tiny part of the light spectrum, and so just having someone who's a bit open-minded is perfect for me, and someone who's just willing to play and have a go and try things on, because yeah, as you start to see things unfold, you'll have all of these aha moments, these gamma bursts in your brain, and you'll be like, oh my god, I didn't see it like that before. So yeah, just having somewhat of an open mind is great. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And then when you have these breakthroughs, you think, "Oh gosh," and being able to see it from someone else's perspective or to see it from a different angle, and you go, "Oh, that's now it makes sense. Now I get it." Right?
Exactly, because we don't know what we don't know, right? And similar to the dog that's laying down the cage, like, I want to come and take you out of the cage.
Yeah.
And so you can run around and be free. And people just have no idea what's available to them, really. They don't know what's possible for them. Because they've been sort of stuck in this life for so long, and there's so much
And like you're
possibility
saying,
out there.
all these cancers, all these chronic disease, all these things that they have this underlying of this stress, sympathetic nervous system going on, and it's remarkable how
Yeah.
often we see that. Just being
Yeah.
through major life stresses and traumas and
Yeah.
sugars being higher. I mean, there was a study they did at Kaiser in San Diego, and they were looking at people with early childhood trauma, and when they did the final analysis, they said their lifespan shortens by 20 years if you had like five or
Wow.
more of these. If your mom was abusive or someone was in jail or there's a violence in the home or food insecurity. And then there was huge correlation with obesity, hypertension, cancer down the road. And you think, gosh, if we can intervene on those things, how many, emergency room visits or hospital visits or we could prevent. But funny enough, or sad enough, I should say, the doctors that worked there said, "Yeah, we're not social workers. We're not going to talk about that stuff. Send them to someone else to fix it."
Yeah. And I get a lot of people coming to me who they just don't have any options left. They've tried, like, for me, I spent 3 decades trying to understand my health situation, and I had all sorts of autoimmune stuff going on. I had brain injury back in 2020, and I healed that with my mind, understanding that it was related to a loss of identity, and so long story, but yeah, the power of the mind is just absolutely incredible. And you go to a doctor, and no offense, but you go to a doctor generally, and they give you a pill, they give you a prescription, and they send you on your way. But at what point do we get to the root cause of what's
Yeah.
going on for them?
Yeah, that's a
And
huge that's a huge point is, and I practiced that kind of medicine for about 16 years. I couldn't take it anymore
yeah.
because you're just don't get, oh, you have a headache here, take this. You have this. And so you say, why do you shouldn't have a headache? Why do you have a headache? Like no one goes to that next level. And again, yeah, I do volunteer work in Guatemala and I've been around to a lot of the third world countries. And
Yeah.
we a constellation of symptoms would come in, the patient would complain of, and I would just look to my translator, go, "What do you think?" Stress related. Like they got it because they'd seen it so many times with me. This consulate, you have a heartburn, you have headaches, you got back pain, you got neck pain, you're fatigued, and you go like,
Yeah.
"Okay, life's probably not going great for you right now, probably right." Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've seen people go through chemotherapy and all these types of treatments and go into remission, but they've never actually changed the behavior. They've never actually gotten to the root of what caused it in the first place. And so, particularly breast cancer is all about the ability to self nurture, and or the inability to self nurture. And so, people pleasers, because
Mhm.
chronic. And so, you can go through radiation, chemo, all of these things, go into remission, and there's a good chance that it'll come back because you haven't gotten the message. Your body is speaking to you. Your body's trying to communicate to you through symptoms, And it's not your fault, right? Because we're not taught how to understand the feedback that we're getting. But when you can, then you can actually do something about it, and you can actually clear it up from you know the causal level.
Yeah. Anything else you're doing that you want people to know about?
Oh, everything,
Oh yeah, no. Oh, you can tell them about tell them about everything you're doing, like the podcast, everything.
Yeah, I've
So if
got a
people
little
want to track
podcast.
you down and learn more about what you're doing.
Yeah, well, best way to get in contact is just head over to jillogle.com. You can contact me variety of ways. I have a Facebook group. I go live every Monday. There's 3,500 people in there if anyone wants to join. Um, yeah, I've got my community membership. We have classes every Monday afternoon here in Australia, which I think is actually probably very early morning in the States. So might not work at the moment, but and then one-on-ones, of course. So
And
and then I
you could do one-on-ones anywhere.
anywhere in the world. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Awesome,
We
awesome.
always work out the time difference. That's never been a problem. Um, there's my always and nevers. You tell you about
Yes.
black and white thinking, but yeah, we can accommodate. And then soon, probably later this year, early next year, I'll be having retreats as well. So that'll be great to get in person and be able to give people hugs and have a real interactive experience with people. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing, and you're building community too. And there's so much benefit with community of supporting each other, listening to each other, correcting each other, whatever it might be, and
Yeah.
so having community, we've seen that with where I do a lot with metabolic health, diabetes, and when I
Yeah.
build a community, it's incredible because
Yeah.
one person's ahead in the journey. They'll say, "Look, I used to be there. Here's what I did. Here's what," and so it's so great. And those people keep benefiting because they're helping other people along the journey, and they know how it is, and they have empathy, so it's amazing, huh?
Absolutely. And it starts to become this sort of, self-functioning sort of thing, right? Because yeah, the people that you've already empowered start to reach down and pull the others up. So yeah, community is so important, to be surrounded by like-minded people who get you, who understand where you've been, what you're trying to work out, where you're thinking with things. It's everything. Really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I got to ask you, since this is life's best medicine, what's life's best medicine for you? For Jill, what do you say? Hey, this is what's important. This is what matters. Here's when it comes down to it, here's what I would tell my closest friends what
Yeah.
matters.
Yeah, well, telling my closest friends and also going back to me as a child would be to love yourself first. And I mean truly love yourself, not this fake kind of positivity or looking in the mirror saying I love you. I mean, get to the root of it, right? What is it that you don't like about yourself? How can you love that part? That's the transformation, because when you can love everything about you, no one can get to you, right? There's nothing left to poke.
That that is so true, and I think so many people need to hear that too. Because if you
Mm.
know you have integrity and someone questions your integrity, it's like
Cool.
you, you can't get offended that that's your opinion, but you're wrong, right? And to be able
Yeah,
to do that, because so many people, someone says something about them and they're shot, like they can't handle it. And instead of
yeah,
saying, "Look, it's not true," they say you're dumb. Obviously, you've been through all this education, you've done all these things. You're not dumb. You're not.
yeah,
It's not true.
yeah.
But so many
Well,
people take that on.
yeah, yeah. And this is the thing, whenever we can love a part of ourselves, it just doesn't control us anymore. So I wouldn't say that I'm to use me as an example, I wouldn't say that I'm not dumb. I would say that I'm dumb and I'm intelligent. I'm mean and I'm kind. I'm beautiful and I'm ugly, right?
Yeah, I've
I'm
done it all.
all of the
Yeah.
things.
And I think being
And
able to show your scars, go, yeah, here's the scar I got, and
yeah,
I'll tell you the story how I got it,
yeah,
And it's okay.
yeah,
So many of us are hiding our scars, and we can't just talk about it. And so, yeah, it's what it
totally.
is. I can't change it. It's
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yep, exactly. Exactly.
But I think what you're saying is loving the bad. Yeah, like is that what you're talking about with the shadow? I didn't get to ask you about that. What's the shadow?
Yeah,
Is your darker side?
well, it's the parts of you that you would rather not be. So, I don't want to say it's the darker side necessarily.
Hmm.
Um, and it's the parts of you that you'd rather not be, and it's the parts that you hide away from the world. So people will show you how kind they are, but they won't show you they won't talk about their meanness. But it has to be there, right? They have both.
Hmm.
But then there's also the golden shadow as well, where we give away our brilliance. And this is why, our sports stars, our singers, our actors are paid so well, because we project all of our brilliance onto them and we say, hey, can you hold this for me? Because I'm not yet worthy.
Mm.
And so they get paid the big bucks to do that.
Wow.
Whereas
Yeah,
you
it's true.
spot it, you got it. Whether it's a negative or a positive, it's within you. And so the more you can take back these parts and own them and love them and integrate them, you become more whole.
Awesome. Thanks
Yeah.
so much for joining me. This is great. This is great education for me. I think so many people are listening and they're thinking, maybe I'll give her a call. Because, I think just focusing on those things and figuring out root cause, you get to the root cause, then you don't need all the drugs. You don't need all the other stuff to fix that problem, right? You fix the problem and you don't need treatment for it anymore. So it's amazing. You'll put all of us doctors out of business, but that's
I
okay.
hope so.
I can I can find other stuff to do, but I think we're doing a lot, working together and looking at this
Yes.
and saying, hey, and for me, I'm telling you, I've had so many patients. I go, gosh, if I could just help you with your stress
Mm,
level, if we could just work
mm,
on that somehow and work on,
mm.
the negative talk or the negative, some people, I can never exercise. I don't want to sweat. I don't want to, and they find every reason not to do it. And I think,
Yeah.
gosh, if I could just get in there and kind of say, you can do it. Let's just start slow. Let's just do this. Can we get here? And, can you, just do the light bands one time a week or something, and we'll start with that, or stand up and sit down a few times, whatever it might be. But once people do it, then you really, and I think that's so important is when we go through trials, we realize like, okay, I'm stronger than I thought I was. So many people
Yeah.
go through, and we all say that to each other. It's like, I couldn't imagine, I couldn't survive it. It's like, well, you did, you can,
Yeah. 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 We're stronger than we think. We really are. We're stronger than we think. And the work that I do, it's not difficult. It's simple. It's not necessarily easy, because there's some stuff you got to own, but it's definitely the simplest way to transform your life
Yeah, and it's
permanently.
rewarding when you
You know,
see that, when you see someone's life change, yeah, that you're a part of it through
beautiful.
your education and all the life experience with all these different modalities you're looking for. Because clearly you're a healer, because all these different modalities you look for to see, is this going to be it? And they go, no, this isn't it. I'll go to the next one. I'll go to the next one. And that's what we have to do in life, and say, find what works. And then maybe in a year it changes again and we do something a little bit different.
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing us hope, and for allowing, for helping people who are struggling with trauma, stress, like even being under that cloud all the time of just saying, gosh, I'm just not happy, but I can't put my finger on it. I don't know why. Like you're saying, going through life's like, why is everyone else happy and I'm not? Or
Mm,
positive? Am I not positive? And
mm.
and embrace that part of yourself and try to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
Thanks for
everyone
having me.
listening, this is great stuff. I'm glad you could join us. Thanks for spending an hour with us here, and be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and also listen to these things and say, gosh, are there things I have to look at? Do I need to get help? I mean, just reaching out, getting someone to help you, and seeing the benefits and life's change, it's pretty amazing. So Jill, thanks so much for joining me. I know you're a day ahead of me now, right?
Yeah, it's Saturday here.
God, Saturday, I'm still on Friday. So is it looking good on Saturday? Should I?
Beautiful.
All right, good.
Sun's out. It's quite cool here in Australia at the moment. We're in winter, but sun's out, sun's shining, clear blue skies. It's beautiful. Glad to
Awesome.
be
Well,
here.
have a great day, and thanks again for joining us. And we'll get this out, and then we'll put all your links in the show notes to get
Great.
everyone to come and bug you.
Yeah, awesome.
All right, Jill, have a great weekend.
Thanks,
Thanks
Brian.
again.
You too.
Bye
Bye.
bye. Thank you for listening to this episode. We greatly appreciate your support. We would greatly appreciate a positive thumbs up on all of the platforms like iTunes and Spotify, or wherever you're listening. And we just thank you for our Patreon supporters. We greatly appreciate your help in getting this message out. We think there's a lot of important information, and hopefully this helps you. Have a great day, and thank you for listening, and thank you for your support.